We would like to welcome you to the second day of the 28th International Service Learning Conference. As we do every year, we feel very comfortable in this building. We feel at home. So we would like to invite the Vice President of Integration, Dr. Gustavo King, to address you all. He represents the Catholic University of Argentina. Thank you for the kind invitation. I'm trying to become a doctor, although the gospel says that no one should be called a doctor. I'm very happy to host the 28th International Service Learning Conference here in our house. And I would like to share with you a brief reflection on this educational space. We also practice service learning in our university. For some years now, the social engagement department has been promoting the use of service learning through our different chairs. In the various programs, we institutionalize service learning, and we hope all programs to have at least one chair doing service learning, because that is one way of showing students and future professionals how knowledge can transform reality. And that gives us hope. As Pope Francis taught us, education is an act of hope, because education is truly the lever, the driver that can transform reality. All realities. The reality of the university, the reality of schools, as well as the reality of community partners. That is, we become brothers and sisters in fraternity, because universities and schools must not become an ivory tower where they keep everything inside and forget about the surrounding reality. We shouldn't forget that our service to others is also a space for learning, because our world is characterized by the fact that it is highly communicated, highly globalized, but also highly polarized. So, service learning based on solidarity promotes the culture of encounter, as Pope Francis taught us, putting people and communities at the center. That leads to fraternity. That poses a big challenge, because if we work individually in isolation, we can't become full individuals. In a communion, in discovering others, and in seeing what others discover in us, we can have that communion of people, and we have the chance of making humankind that is more fraternal, more oriented to solidarity. So we need to accompany youth and students in this encounter, and also communities to encounter other environments that are quite different from their own reality, but they can anyway be spaces of hope. So in this 28th International Service Learning Conference, I hope that you have a fruitful discussion, and that all together we can continue building and growing this dimension of service learning, uncovering the wealth that others can offer to us. I want to thank Nieves Tapia and María Rosa and all the CLAYSS and Uniservitate team members for choosing our university to host this conference. I hope you feel at home here, and that you can do good work for the good of our society and provide a sign of hope to this world, when the current Pope is now calling us to fast and to pray for peace in the world, so that we can be symbols of peace, fraternity, cordiality, and stimulation for the new generations to live a more humane and more fraternal world. I wish you a very good meeting.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. So let's start with the plenary session on service learning projects in times of AI. I would like to invite here on stage Natalia Menichetti from the National University Raúl Scalabrini Ortiz, Marcelo Ranzoni from the Art School in the city of Buenos Aires, and María Rosa Tapia, who will be the moderator. She is a member of CLAYSS and Uniservitate. So I'll give her the floor so that she can introduce our panelists. Good morning, everyone. We are very happy because we have come to this point where we can share what we know or what we don't know about artificial intelligence. But I thought that first we need to tell you a little bit about what happened, what was the origin of this conference. You all know that with technological advances throughout history, we were challenged to review our teaching strategies, to use some other techniques. So AI poses a new challenge to us, but it has some peculiar characteristics. That is why that for some time, especially with Ángeles Seletic that coordinates the training team, we have been sharing new publications, videos, and opinion leaders trying to understand how we can incorporate AI into service learning projects. Whenever we feel that we are in the right direction, something new would appear. So we ran a test with our team, with a first presentation. We wanted to have international experts for this panel like Mariana Maggio or Chao Book from the United States, but unfortunately, due to other commitments and other reasons, they were not able to join us today. But in our dialogue among colleagues, we realized that we could share with you some interesting views that we well look at with you. I have with me Natalia Menichetti, who has a degree in education science. She also teaches at the University of Buenos Aires. She is a specialist in educational technology, and she is a master's student in teaching at the University of Buenos Aires. And she's also teaching at the National University Raúl Scalabrini Ortiz, where together with me, we teach learning and technology. This year in particular, AI put us in face of the challenge of how to incorporate AI in preschool teaching. And then we have with us Marcelo Ranzoni, who has more than 30 years of experience, and he told us how his students integrate technologies in their studies, and especially AI in Argentina. He teaches ICTs, and he is the leader of the social and educational experience empathizing space. So first, I'm going to ask Natalia Marcelo to briefly tell us what is the setting in which you have developed these projects. Natalia, good morning. Thank you for allowing us to share our experience with you. In learning and technology in our university that is located in San Isidro in the province of Buenos Aires, we implemented from the very beginning the methodology that gives priority to project-based learning. This happens as part of the degree on psychology and also the teacher's training for preschool teaching. So, and this also fits within the theoretical framework of service learning. Here we try to coordinate theory and practice in order to address relevant social problems. With this paradigm, we try to address the need to renovate teaching models in contemporary times where we see some complexities, social inequalities, the ubiquity of digital technology. And by implementing this approach, we realized that students do not only learn theoretical content, but also apply them to problem solving. This synergy between doing and learning contributes to a significant improvement in the quality of learning because they apply concepts to real situations, and this gives them more lasting and more profound meaning to knowledge. So they have worked in small groups. Students have been able to choose different topics, different themes, and different settings in which they would apply their projects. So the groups were set up based on their common interests, and they perform a thorough analysis of the state of the art of that topic that they have selected. Then they identify key informants in order to enrich and improve the definition of those proposals that they are putting together. Throughout the process, the teams participate in different exchange spaces, and they review their projects with teachers and also among other students, and they end up producing a prototype, in this case a technological resource that becomes the final output from that subject. Over the years, projects have addressed multiple topics, including teachers training, senior adult education, among others. And in some semesters, for instance, just to give you an example, students collaborated with a group of people that are part of organic green gardens at the municipal level. So they develop tutorials, podcasts, videos, and different proposals in order to give structure to that virtual setting, and they favor the understanding of all this content of people with disabilities and also elderly adults, everything related to the production of green gardens. Here, this work promotes both personal and professional skills. With civic education and active citizenship engagement, they reinforce their social responsibility because students are future professionals. The interaction between academic or the integration between academic knowledge and the social role of the university consolidates the commitment of the institution to local development. Access to digital technologies or to digital tools favors collaboration, interaction between individuals, organizations, and networks that are outside the classroom. So here, the faculty become facilitators. Our main role is to provide guidance to students so that they can put together their proposals and they can meet the academic needs and the demands of the community.
Buen día.
Good morning. It's a pleasure for me to be here again. I'm going to be brief so we give the space to the protagonists here. I agree with many of the things that Natalia was just describing. The This space called empathizing was implemented at a secondary school, that is high school, students between 14 and 18 years of age. All the students at our school have the possibility of participating in projects within this social and educational space. It's at their own choice. They receive different inputs, and then the characteristics of this space, empathizing, is that we propose that the students develop positive social impact projects, connecting them with people, with collective groups, or with organizations where their projects may generate a true social transformation. And this, matched with the active methodologies that are used in the classroom, turns them into the protagonists of their own learning. It drives learning infinitely. There's also a contribution to their development as individuals, and it allows them to generate true social transformations from their position. The objectives are focused mainly on developing projects intended for these groups of people where they not only contain lots of content, academic content, and today we are focusing on technology and particularly AI. So they not only develop these projects and they put all this content at play, but they also use skills and competencies that are mainly related to the empathy in action, active listening, the possibility of communicating in an assertive way, establishing bonds with partners outside the educational ecosystem, and we are essentially aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. So, in each of these projects, we try to generate contributions along that line. So, essentially, what this space empathizing generates is that within the school space, different social and educational actors, because we work with lots of civil society organizations, can join efforts to improve the quality of life and the access to opportunities. Thank you. Thank you, Natalia and Marcelo. What was very interesting when we started sharing the experiences that we've been developing and thinking of putting the focus on how AI participates within the service learning projects, we thought it was essential to consider the basic principles of service learning, where the protagonist is the student. In this case, also the experts of technology developed with AI. So I invite Marcelo and Natalia to stand up. We're going to move to a side and we're going to invite the students of the ORT school so that they teach us a little.
Les damos entonces la bienvenida.
So we welcome the students that participate in two projects. The SIGN AI project, Maximiliano Seto, Benjamín Picable, Federico Díaz Menes, Borja Insurrieta, Tomás Instring. And then we're going to listen to the CIMA project with Ignacio Núñez Valcarce, Lucas Bertoloni, Martin Purstin, and Gabriel Slovinsky.
Bueno, muy buenos días.
Good morning. We are the Sign AI group, and we developed a sign language translator, a free translator, driven by AI. I'm Borja Isurieta, these are my colleagues, Federico Díaz Nemeth, Maximiliano Ceton, Benjamin Picali, and Thomas Gristein. What is our project about? Sign AI is an app that allows a user to upload a video of a person expressing themselves in sign language for AI to process it and generate a written and an audio response. We also have a learning model on development to promote the use of sign language in society. But let us think, why are we doing this? We are doing this because human beings are creative and social beings. We need to live in society to develop ourselves as individuals and as a community. As human beings, we need the others to have containment, love, empathy, even to learn and to grow. As Matthew Lieberman says, our brain is wired for social connection, just as it is wired to feel hunger or thirst. All this system is based on effective communication. Without that, life in society would not be possible. And in part, this is what makes us different from other animals. So, as society, we are failing, we think, by leaving aside some people just because a characteristic they have. We don't let them communicate with a large percentage of society. However, this this is not because of the inability of deaf people to speak. This falls on the lack of incentives that society has to learn sign language to then facilitate communication for these people. So if we see that effective communication is the basis for life in society, we can say that life in society of deaf people is reduced to just a percentage of people that can understand them. So we can say and can state that deaf people live with a limit in their daily lives when it comes to expressing their basic needs. Let us put an example. A person that is deaf and thinks of a revolutionary project that is going to change something in medicine or anything in society, and they want to share it with the world, of course. Do they have the same facilities we have to communicate that? Of course not. So, we, with our project, are here to offer that autonomy that these people need so much to communicate with others. And we offer this through two different approaches. One, the translation model with AI, and the other by being a learning model to promote and to raise awareness about sign language worldwide. Now, thank you so much. There's still a lot to share. Now I'm going to share how this project works. Do you have the video? Okay, the video is not ready. Then, things may happen. So I'm going to explain it. The app starts with a homepage where the user can choose a video from their gallery, from their files, to upload it to the AI. Once the user selects the video, AI starts loading the video in that turning wheel, and it starts to process this message in sign language, starts to extract meanings, a set of signs to generate a response that we can read or we can hear. And then we are developing also a couple of games, interactive games for society to learn sign language. Well, that was in the video. That's basically how our project works. There you can see how you go in, you select the video, and that's the interpreter saying something about the weather in this case. This is the process I was explaining, how it's processing the signs and preparing the response through AI. And it's going to return the response in English. There you can see the message.
North, and there might be showers and thunderstorms.
Okay, and there we have the demo of the project. That's it. Good morning. I'm Benjamin Picali. I developed the back end of the app. First, let's go back to last year, more specifically to early last year. The school told us that by mid-year we should have developed a project where we should propose the idea for it. And the school, as Marcelo mentioned, gives us the space, empathizing, where different groups of people come and tell us about the problems a certain group of people faces in society. And thanks to this, they promote us to do other projects with a social impact. Besides, last year, I started attending some conferences about giving the first step, ignoring failure, and social impact projects. And then after thinking lots of ideas and highly motivated, and besides we had the idea for the project, I thought, what happens if I turn a text into a sign set? That is, a text is translated as an avatar in sign language. So I told Maxi about the idea. He was surprised, and we decided to investigate a little more and to shape the idea. And so once we had a clearer idea in mind, we looked for more support. And then we created this group of people and assigned the different roles. Then we had to present this to the faculties or teachers so they could approve the idea and start developing. But they told us it was very complicated, that we didn't have the tools enough to develop it, but they told us that we could develop that out of a video in sign language to translate into text. So we started developing that. As you know, once the idea was ready, we had no experience. We had no experience and knowledge about techniques or the problem itself. So no experience, no direction, and we started the process. What we did have was a lot of enthusiasm and determination to face this issue. And then once we started the development, we thought it was going to take us 3 or 4 months, and the AI was going to have a model with a very high level of accuracy. But as in any project, we had thousands of barriers and obstacles. The first barrier was that we decided to make this sign language app in the sign language of Argentina, but there were no videos available for Argentinian Sign Language. So we decided to change and look for videos in the American Sign Language. And then once we solved this problem, we decided we continued the project, and we thought it was going great with an AI model that was very accurate, but that was not the case. We had a very low level of accuracy, and we had a big disappointment. But we were still very willing to face the issue. So at the beginning of the year, Marcelo and Fede started doing some more research to see how we could overcome this problem, how to increase the level of accuracy. And thanks to a lot of help from possible users, they gave us some uses and features that might work in our project. Besides, now we are working with the Council of the City of Buenos Aires, and they want to support us to prepare videos in Argentinian Sign Language so we can implement this in our app. Good morning, I'm Maximiliano. I'm one of the developers of this AI with Federico. I'm going to share the development so far. At the beginning of the project, we had to choose a technology that would allow us to automate the sign language translation, and for that we used AI. AI allows us to solve problems automatically. And this has two parts. On the one hand, we have the structure represented by this cube. And then I'm going to go back to this so you can understand the analogy. And then we have data. This data teach the cube to interpret the information to solve the problem. It's important to understand that none of these parts on their own can solve the problem. Now we're going to explain a little how this cube works. As I said, the goal is for it to learn. What does it mean? As you can see, this is made up of several cubes. Imagine that each of these squares or cubes has an ideal color to interpret the information. Learning means to get closer to those ideal colors so that the cube, taking all these squares in their ideal colors, can interpret the information and return a valuable answer to solve the problem. Our work as AI developers is to create this cube in a way that favors this learning, and this considering that the squares may be more or fewer, may be in more or fewer layers, and even distributed differently, forming different shapes. What is the process like? I like to divide it into three phases. First, research. In this phase, with our knowledge and experience, we go out to look for the available information that can help us solve the problem. This information refers to books, papers, and also AI models that solve this problem already or a similar issue. And looking at their strengths and weaknesses, we can reach a hypothesis. That hypothesis will be what will be the best possible structure to adopt. Then in the second phase, we will have to bring this hypothesis down to the code. The code will create a program that will allow us to run tests. And so we will be able to check the hypothesis, confirm it or not. And that's the third stage, the testing stage. In this stage, that's where the learning happens, that is, the changes in color in the cube. And here we will end with a percentage of how well our hypothesis was presented and its implementation. But that's not the end. The development is a much longer process. Imagine that this is the road to AI development with the objective of reaching the best model possible. The best model is the most accurate model that has a balance between accuracy and what it will take the machine to process it. All these processes, research and then test, create these checkpoints, that is, middle points before you reach the objective. These are always positive, always new starting points, because they allow us to face a new research phase with more knowledge and experience, and already applied in real way to the project. So even if the test is not satisfactory, it's important not to see it as a limit, but as a constant learning. And this is where we have to make a decision. This decision will refer to how we're going to continue with the development of this AI. Maybe perhaps follow a similar road or rethink all the approach and pivot it. This is an example of how these checkpoints, even if at first sight they look negative, they're always positive. Well, you cannot read it, I think, but this is what the AI model returns, the model that we had developed in November last year. Well, you can read it, but these are sentences that make no sense. So the cube was very far from the ideal colors. It was a big disappointment. But we decided to see it as a strong area for improvement, a warning. And so we redefined everything we knew about AI. We went back to research to generate new hypotheses. Some were more fruitful than others, but today now, well, they've helped us with their teaching to reach the point where we are. We are much more advanced, as we've seen. We have a structure that is already functional. And now let us go to the data. As Benjamin mentioned, we found a need, and that was that we didn't have videos with their translations to feed the cube so that the cube could learn and work out the problem. When we speak of data in sign language, we mean the set of videos with their translations. And this is where we reached a stop. So because we couldn't bring this to the local community in Argentina. Now the cube is close to the ideal colors, but we still need those data to learn the Argentinian Sign Language. Without the Argentinian Sign Language, the problem would not be issued here for the local deaf community. So now we are working with the City Council of the City of Buenos Aires to carry out this development of this data set that will allow us to have a real impact on the lives of people here. And thanks to this, we reached a conclusion, and that is that the data provider is as important as the AI developer when it comes to this development. Without one of the two parts, you cannot solve a problem. That's why when we hear AI, we shouldn't feel excluded. You need to be a technician to be part of this revolution that is happening. It's important to understand that each of us from our place can be that missing piece in the puzzle to reach a technology that is truly an innovation that can help the community from wherever we are.
En el mundo,
In the world, there is a group of people who suffer from limitation, and that is the freedom of speech. And that is a beautiful right human beings have, because that allows us to relate to others and to communicate with others. Expressing oneself is not just to say something, but also it means sharing experiences and ideas and thoughts. So when we talk about freedom of expression, we also speak about inclusion, opening up spaces, tearing down barriers, and knowing that every individual has something valuable to contribute to. So when one voice is not heard, all of us lose as a society. Thank you.
acá les dejamos el LinkedIn.
This is our QR code for our account in LinkedIn if you want to ask any questions. Thank you for making complex things look so simple and showing us all the contributions you can make. Now we are going to travel to San Isidro. Unfortunately, the students in the Teacher Training Institute who are working to be preschool teachers were not able to come here because they are working as helpers or therapeutic assistants, but they left us a video. This was developed by Valentina Duarte, Camila Tatiana Guzmán, Martina Polini, and Natalia Elizabeth Santos and Rocío Turma Moreno appear on this video. Hello, we are Natalia and Rocío from the Teachers Training Institute at the Scalabrini Ortiz University, and we would like to tell you about this project creating for Kinder. This is an Instagram account that was open to provide support to teachers and preschool teachers, students. This is an account where we share ideas, strategies, and pedagogical resources that integrate new technologies in kindergarten in a critical, creative, and meaningful manner. This is especially addressed to teachers in kindergarten that try to improve their practices on a daily basis. Our project started with a questionnaire aimed at teachers in order to learn about their interests, needs, and expectations with regard to the incorporation of new technologies in kindergarten classrooms and what they wanted to get from our account. Based on their accounts, we designed the content of our account promoting creative proposals that would bring together digital technologies with playful exercises. So as teachers, we wanted this project to provide teachers and students different technological proposals that they could use in the classroom. So we have published and designed informational images, carousels, reels, and stories relating to literature on learning and technology, the subject that led us to carry out this project. This text by Garner and Davis and the digital natives concept. We have also related different documents from the subject like neurosciences and learning using the concept of executive functions and how they can be put into practice in kinder in association with a document on executive functions and learning when aging. We also uploaded some videos that we thought were interesting, how to create a public Google Drive folder and a QR code, information on different important dates and how to work on them in kinder, and how to incorporate AI to kindergarten. In this project, we use AI as a hand that helps us generate ideas, organize contents, and find resources. Thanks to this, we can now devote more time to creating nice and useful proposals for our followers. We also used AI in a more personal manner in order to create some concepts and activities. Creating for Kinder is more than an account. It is a space to share and learn and grow together. I hope you liked it. Thank you.
Bueno, acá retomo nuevamente.
Let me go back to, I would like to thank Rocio and Natalia for their generosity. They shot this video. And in 2025, a group of students from the preschool training level came up with very nice video projects. And for us as faculty, this was a challenge, how to reflect on the role of technology in classrooms dealing with young children. So here, we started talking more, of course, about AI. Initially, some students were a bit reluctant to sharing openly their opinion about the use of AI in the classroom, and perhaps they raised some uncertainties. They weren't sure whether they should speak up or not, or at least that was the feeling that we had. But as time went by, they became more trusting, there was more dialogue, and they started sharing how they used AI, and they used them for their personal life, for their academic programs, and also in their practices with children, because although they haven't yet graduated as teachers, they are doing some practical work as helpers in kindergarten, and they share good and bad experiences. So students share their experiences in the use of technology. They became more confident to share this, and this was crucial to understand the role of technology in this group. So they had this theoretical reflection space, but these future teachers discovered the relevance and the way they could incorporate these technologies, and they understood the fundamental role of having support and guidance of adults in these spaces. So the initiative that we have just seen on the video shared by these students, of course, uses social media, but it goes beyond just conveying digital content. This is an account that serves as a platform for professional development, and it is collaborative. The main purpose was to promote critical thinking and also to integrate new technologies, AI in particular, in practices in kindergarten. And perhaps this approach is different than just introducing technology for the sake of introducing it. Here, they try to address the needs and the concerns of teachers and future educators. Some of the reels or stories they posted were specifically focused on AI, and they contributed different types of resources that could be used with young children, like stories that children could develop themselves, short stories and that could be on a device using AI, and those stories start becoming real. In the project, they had these diagnosis phases where they try to identify what others needed, what others wanted to find in that space. So with this survey, they did not only have some guidance for content generation, but they also understood that there were some resources that were needed, bringing together digital and playful elements. So they produced content, different carousels, reels, and stories, interviews with teachers from other subjects. in interrelating knowledge, also establishing some curricular coordination among the different spaces, and they produced a video. They took a concept that is called powerful upbringing, and they drew the attention of the author of a book on that topic, and that was a great motivation for them to keep on going and to keep on adding more to this space. They also referred to academic papers, the work by Gardner, and this shows that the project was not just limited to producing superficial ideas. They had a rigorous theoretical framework, and this academic approach is crucial in order to legitimate the use of AI and other digital tools in a sensitive educational setting as early childhood. So AI is a hand that helps for generating ideas, organizing content, and perhaps there are some nuances here. Instead of feeling that AI is going to replace teachers, students see it as a catalyst for creativity, for process optimization, and also as a pedagogical helper that can allow you to spend more time on other tasks, such as coming up with innovative proposals and leveraging the learning experiences. In conclusion, this project was not just an innovative use of AI for teachers training, but also became a model that showed how new technologies can be critically, creatively integrated into the kinder class and also in a meaningful manner. And they have shown that pedagogical innovation can use these tools and can guide them, orient them to something meaningful. In this case, the integral development of young children in a digital age. This approach is rooted in the framework of service learning. It goes beyond individual skills development in order to have impact on an educational community. It provides useful resources and that are accessible to other students. And this project has turned into a tangible service that favors networking and provides more informed pedagogical practices, more socially responsible, and also shows adaptability of teachers in a world that is constantly transforming itself from a technological standpoint. So we thank you for giving us this opportunity to share our experience. Thank you for listening, and I hope that we can continue building spaces where we understand that learning is useful, provides a service, and by serving, we also learn. Of course, we invite you all to look for this account in Instagram, and for learning to continue, please give us some feedback, leave us some comments to the posts that you find there. Now let's move on to the second project that Ignacio Núñez Valcarce, Lucas Bertoloni, Martin Burstein, and Gabriel Cyrulinski are going to present. This is the CIMA project. Good morning. We are the ones who developed CIMA. I'm Ignacio, Lucas, Gabriel, and Martin. Last year, we developed CIMA. Basically, this is a medical assistance for people to have an early diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. Here we use machine learning. Martin is going to go into further detail. Why we chose to use AI in our project? Well, first of all, let me tell you our primary goal. Why? If we were school students, we wanted to delve into clinical topics. That was not our main objective. Rather, we wanted to focus, as Marcelo said earlier, on helping people. it didn't matter if it was just one single person or a community, too many people, just a few. We just wanted to improve the quality of life of a group of people or even of one individual. That was our main goal. That is why we want to thank the space empathizing Marcelo in our school, where we can have talks. People can tell us about their daily problems. Usually they have to do with accessibility problems. We are in a special course on ICTs, so we wanted to find a solution to a specific problem. Hello, I'm Lucas. I was in charge of executing the project. Let me tell you how this works and why, as Ignacio said, we decided to explore this medical field and specifically multiple sclerosis, which is so specific. My mother works in a pharmaceutical company that developed a treatment for multiple sclerosis. So I always heard people talking about this notion of neurodegenerative disease. So I thought about AI and how we incorporate it into our daily life. So I started wondering whether we could do something with AI that could help in this process. So that was the starting point. I talked to Nacho about this idea, and it was quite complex. We did some research. How do you detect multiple sclerosis? How can you treat this disease? And of course, it is a long process. You have to see the doctor several times. You have to ask for several opinions, and it's not something that can be solved overnight. So by trying to develop the project, thinking how we could come up with a solution, one of the teachers was curious about what we were doing in our computer, and she said, "What are you doing?" We told her about our project, and she looked at us, she stared at us, and she said, "Well, I have multiple sclerosis, and we had this teacher once a week last year, and that was quite an impact because we were shocked because multiple sclerosis is not a common disease, but one of our teachers, out of all the teachers we had it, and she could share with us her treatment, her medical visits. So this confirmed that we could really help someone. And this is what Nacho was telling you about. We wanted to help someone. We wanted a solution that could really be useful to someone. So we had a lot of conversations with her. She gave us information. She told us about what she did in her medical visits. So one of the solutions here was focus on time, since this is a neurodegenerative disease. If it is not treated early, then the disease may progress. So I was in charge of data collection in the project, but I wanted to talk to this teacher and learn about the studies the tests that she had to go through on a weekly or monthly basis. So for me, it was very important to know what was needed. AI developers needed all this information in order to process it, and they are going to tell you more about that. So we try to go inside the user's head. It is very important to try to be in their head because we don't know how a person with multiple sclerosis can be helped like this because you don't have that disease. So it is important to talk to people who deal with the disease and ask them, how can we help you? And that way we can come up with different ideas. So they are going to tell us more about that specific process using data. But that is what we wanted to focus on in our project. Good morning. I'm Martin, and together with Gabriel, we were the ones who developed the AI component in CIMA. And as Lucas explained, in this data gathering process, it was essential to ask all these questions, and we came to a point where we have to decide what we could cover and what we couldn't cover with our app. So with all the information gathered, we decided that we were going to focus on the clinical aspects for analysis. So we were going to help doctors provide another perspective so that they could do their clinical analysis. What I'm just referring to the clinical part, because there is another important part that has to do with the psychological aspects, everything that goes in the mind of the patient. Strong emotions. So we concluded that we couldn't focus on that because it would be too complicated. So once we had understood this, we set out to find out what we could do with the technologies that we were familiar with in order to have an impact. And we focus on time. Time is one of the most important factors in the progression of the disease. So we decided that we should work to shorten the time needed for testing so that doctors could come with a diagnosis earlier. Some of you may be wondering, Martin mentioned the doctors, and so who are we helping really? Are we helping the multiple sclerosis patient, the teacher, or are we helping the doctors? That was one of the main questions that we asked ourselves at the beginning of the project. So Marcelo put us in contact with the Noemi Frida Kraut Foundation to try to define what we were going to do with our project. This foundation deals with MS patients, and they gave us a lot of recommendations. So we drew the conclusion that it was better for us to come up with a web page that would use AI to detect multiple sclerosis. In that way, we would shorten the time needed to get to the diagnosis because, as Lucas and Martin said, the longer they wait to have the diagnosis, the more harm their body will have. So with just a single form on our app, we were able to use some patterns in order to detect specifically if a person had multiple sclerosis. Of course, we did not include the psychological elements here. So with this foundation, we agreed from the very beginning that we would never leave doctors aside. We would always resort to those professionals that we couldn't provide a diagnosis ourselves. That was clear from the very beginning. The doctor was going to provide the diagnosis. We would just streamline the analysis and the testing part so that we could also help the patients. So we were helping doctors do this work more speedily, and we would ultimately be helping patients, in other words, the teacher that we had. So this is a photo on the right that was taken last year when we presented our project in one of the events in our course. You see two ladies here that helped us with the project. They came on behalf of the foundation. We also talked to the president of the foundation, so we are very happy with all the work we did. But we didn't stop there. There are some aspects of the project development that, as we said, that had to be validated. developments do not always work out as you initially expect them. As the other students said, during the development phase, you will encounter a lot of problems, and perhaps you won't like it in the first time, but you keep on having different iterations so that the project gets better. And perhaps you will never get to a zero error rate. You may have a minimum error rate, but you always try to improve. When we completed the project, we realized that this was a web app, a web-based app. And when you have the diagnosis and the patient's name and the results, you have a yes or no answer. And for users or doctors, that is not so useful. What does yes or no mean? It might be associated with a percentage. So we started making some changes. A percentage describes better the situation, much better than just this binary code of yes or no. You may have a 55% chance of having the disease or so. With all the factors indicated in the form, we try to see what the impact was. And of course, we did not touch on the psychological aspects. But we started from the point of view of patients. Initially, we thought to have a section for patients in the app, but because of time constraints and all the other subjects that we had to take care of, we couldn't go further with that. But we just have this app for the doctors, for them to use them with their patients with medical history. But we could easily add another user type that would be the patient, and the patient would also have a leading role in that app. So our app was designed to help doctors, but it's also targeting patients. So this has to do with what Nacho was saying, what kind of improvements we could introduce in this development. I'm Gabriel. Good morning. I'm Gabriel. Together with Martin, we developed the AI platform, and Nacho asks this question, this fundamental question: who are we helping, doctors or patients? The answer is both. Doctors can enter data. They can use this tool to make a final decision, but we are also helping MS patients because they need a space, a community to talk to. We also help them get a certificate of disability that allows them to get some benefits. So we still have to work on that other part of the web page, because if the ultimate goal is to help others, we think that it would be very good to have that space also for patients, because that is always the goal, but we are open to improvements and to improve our project. Of course, we have very good things in this project. We learned a lot during the development phase. We worked as a team. We got to know one another much better. To have this opportunity in the secondary school is great. We are thankful for that. And now we know that our project can be used to help someone, because sometimes when you develop a project, when you get to the end of the project, you realize that you get a different taste. It's not the same as any other project. That social aspect gives you peace of mind because you are helping someone. After learning a lot, we want to keep on developing this app. We want to meet other objectives. We want to make more room for patients, for people with a disease. So we are open to proposals from doctors, from people who have the disease, And without the community, we would have never carried out this kind of project. We are not doctors, of course. We had no idea what multiple sclerosis was like before this project. So if we hadn't had the chance of working with the foundation or with patients, we would have never carried out this kind of project. So once again, we want to keep on further developing the project. We are open to proposals. We are open to talking to doctors, to MS patients, in order to introduce some improvements.
And something we think it's important to mention is to talk about the impact. It's subjective because you can reach 1 million people, you can generate something very massive, but we have to understand that the impact in a group of people, even if it's very small, is incredible. Being able to generate something positive, being able to improve their lifestyle, even if it's just one person, that's something that we realized by developing this project. And it's something we hadn't thought of before. It's a huge pleasure. So we want to motivate the fact that no matter how small the change is, but if you can improve somebody's lives, that's life-changing. It's undervalued, I think, and that's something we realized, and I want to appreciate that. Well, now this is who we are, our roles. Lucas, he was a back-end developer. Then Martin Burstein over there, the AI developer. Gabriel Slotnitsky, also AI developer. And myself, Ignacio Núñez Valcarce, the UX UI designer. It's a huge pleasure for us to be here to share our project with you, and also from a different perspective, because we always discuss the AI side or the medical side as a more technical thing, but talking about the social part, the impact, that's something that is so satisfactory for us. Thank you.
Bueno, para cerrar.
So, to conclude, what can I add to that? I enjoy them every day at school. So, you can envy me. Thank you. Two short messages. One has to do with AI, and clearly, as you've seen in this presentation, it's a very powerful tool. It's an innovative tool, but it's a tool that each of us as teachers, developers, idea generators, we have to be aware that the human presence cannot be negotiated. So I think that has to be the clear message. And the second part has to do with what you've heard and hearing them. I'm always so touched whenever I listen to them. And this has to do with a work that is important in speaking about awareness. It's important to raise this awareness in the younger generations, remove those barriers that have to do with the attitude, because those attitude barriers generate all the other barriers. That's essential. It's a basis at each project conducted by the students. Thank you. Well, you can imagine that after these experts, it's very difficult to try and make a summary. But again, I'd like to thank Ángeles Soletic because she helps me try and see what we can also learn from this experience. So in that sense, I also think it is very important, and I try to put myself in your position, sharing what happened to us as well, is to see how all these developments also challenge us as teachers in our role, as to rethinking our practices, rethinking assessment models, for instance, how to motivate these students. And that's why, based on what we've been discussing already from the very first day of this conference, we decided to explore a little and see how we could make a reflection under a theoretical framework, like in this case, experience-based learning by Kolb. I'm sure you know him. So we started to see that without any doubt for a significant learning to happen, there has to be a specific experience, as they shared. But in this concrete experience, for us, sharing is essential. They mentioned that all the things they learned from businesses, organizations, physicians, everything they had to find out to make sure that that experience was significant and valuable. And for us as teachers, also learning about the experience that they develop. And that requires many levels of trust in everything they showed us they are capable of doing. So I'd like to thank the teachers that trusted you so that you could share today all you are capable of. That's the first point. If you don't share, if we don't acknowledge one another, it will be very difficult for us to conduct any project that can be significant. But then comes reflective observation. And that's what we tried and do as we listen to you. And in the particular case of AI, with everything we hear, daring criticize, daring have a critical approach to all the things we hear, the do's, the don'ts, to then can have a reflection that is objective, that is also based on ethical values, because we know that AI, although you could use it for a very good cause, we know that it promotes some biases. And as they also mentioned, each of us can be the piece that can help train AI so that those biases are not so marked. So that sharing our knowledge, we can also make the knowledge that we can have access to through AI is a knowledge based on other types of values. And not thinking that AI is always reliable, not because I'm using AI and they showed it very well, everything is going to work perfectly. No. But with your observation, you made the necessary adjustments for things to work, because there is no doubt that AI does not solve all the problems. And that's why we move to the abstract conceptualization, the importance of conceptualizing, to then we can create an opinion about how we want to use those resources for developing service learning projects, and also to be able to have guiding ideas to then move forward with our practices and reach active experimentation. Here, without doubts, we invite all of you to dare create, to dare innovate in your practices, to ask your students how can you start integrating the projects or improving your practices. As we've seen in the project about kindergarten, from many spaces today, our students are using AI. But in many cases, AI is forbidden in the classroom. Instead of socializing and making that use more transparent so that we can all find significant uses that promote learning, we have to be aware that today this is accessible to all. And if we don't use that dissemination and the benefits that we can see they may have, we will be missing great opportunities to improve our practices That's why the first invitation I would like to make, the first proposal, is that beyond creating and innovating in the practices, as you try, and here we're also going to ask the students to join us, we're going to share with you a QR code, not to use it now, but you will find a Padlet with the steps in the road so that as you use AI, share with us, tell us what worked, what didn't, what idea came to you, because that will be a way of keeping learning all together, how to significantly integrate AI. And to conclude, now I have a final invitation. I don't want to forget, just give me a second. In the conversations we are having these days in these spaces, I've been talking a lot with a colleague from the Catholic University of Ukraine, Yulia Vintony. I don't know if Yulia is here. And I thank her so much for a project that she conducted with her students, where based on the Krimo-Levi book, if what makes us human, or if this is a man, they conducted a work in theology and philosophy to try and find a response to this question, what makes us human? And for that, they conducted interviews, as you can see in the picture. They interviewed war heroes, volunteers, soldiers, paramedics that are today fighting in the war in Ukraine, to ask them also, what is it that in a war context helped them be more human? I think it's a question where with artificial is everywhere. It's a way of recovering our humanity, and everything they shared as well of how these experiences made their spirits richer. So let us be aware as well of the impact that these experiences can have, and that given the advancement of artificial things, let's keep celebrating these real meetings, encounters to try and deal with real problems that, as they showed, will allow us to develop all in an integral way as individuals. So thank you again. Thank you, and let's keep working on it.